Hey Exiles, long time no see. I've been pretty busy with life for a while. I am still playing a bit of Path of Exile. I tried Ruthless, didn't like it. I did give it a fair go. I think I'm still the first one or two chieftains on the ladder for hardcore souls I found, but I like grindy stuff. But this is too much. They got rid of a bunch of stuff. Like it's kind of weird because they simplified the game a lot. I like the game when it's harder and when there's more difficulty, but they sort of made it harder by taking out a lot of the interesting systems. So I didn't enjoy the mode at all. Super grindy. Anyway, those are I don't really want to get into Ruthless. I just don't think it's very good. I would love it if they made it more interesting, but I didn't find it interesting at all. Um, I haven't been able to play the last couple of gauntlets. I've just been very busy with work. So I did play a little bit, like I said, just of Ruthless and some other stuff, but haven't been too active. I'm sorry, I know there were some builds that I intended to post and I never did from back when I was posting before. And I'm not going to do much posting for this league either, but I did do a version of Wave of Conviction that I'm going to play a little bit. And I had made it clean enough. I was like, you know what, I should just make a video because some people would probably like to see the update. And I have been pretty precise with it. I don't think that you're going to find a better tree or anything, at least based on the vectors that I look for in a very league start Wave of Conviction. And I think at this point I'm pretty much the expert on this build, so I might as well just give you my take on it. As you see in the title, it's not just Wave of Conviction, it's also going to be Reap, and the reason for that is that Vaal Reap exists. So when I've looked at Wave of Conviction builds before, I don't just look at that, I look at other options, and Reap has always been one that's just been like second place to Wave. It's sort of almost there, but it doesn't have... The damage can either be a little bit more or a little bit less, but it doesn't have the quality of life, so I never really play it. And then you factor in the other factors of, if you play Reap, probably Wave of is your secondary spell, whereas with Wave, you can use Flame Surge as your secondary spell, which is a bit more damage. It usually puts Wave over the top. But that changes with Vaal Reap, because the Vaal Reap does almost double the damage. So once you have that, I think that the math probably shifts in favor of Reap. So I do have some alternate skills here. So this is skill set Wave of Conviction. Here's skill set Reap. Everything else is exactly the same. It's just that the skill gems for Reap are different than the skill gems for Wave of Conviction. And we have this at 2 because we use Spell Cascade. If you manage to get Awakened Spell Cascade, you can bump that up to 3, which is obviously nice. What else do I want to go over? Okay, so custom modifiers, 15% life. This is because I'm using the Scholar's Robe, which doesn't have a life modifier, and we're taking one of the life masteries, not sure. Oh, I found it right away. The 15% increased maximum life, but it doesn't calculate it in Path of Building yet, so I've just put it in as a modifier. And this is the average uptime for Nagamu's Flame. This node, if you remember. What else should I go over? We're a little bit socket starved. I put in a unset ring just for flame dash. All this gear is quite basic, so this is just you put in the spell gems along with the heist based here. You'll get one back that says spell +1 to spell skill gem. Oh, sorry, no, it would be fire. Okay, I wasn't precise with this. The reason I put in all instead of fire, which is the natural one, is I wanted it to be easy for people to just click into Reap, and Reap needs specifically physical or all spell. With Wave, you don't need all spell. So, sorry, this makes it look like it's a much higher end item than I intended. Just put in the vendor recipe for a +1 fire, lightning, or physical skill gem, and you'll get that back, and that's what you actually want with Wave. You're not trying to get an all spell skill, and then just craft multi-mod fire damage cast speed. Nothing else really specific. Doedre stamming just for the extra curse, obviously. So because of the new mastery, Scholar's Robe has become almost as good, and to some extent maybe even better than Lightning Coil, which is what I've gone with before. I think Lightning Coil, strictly speaking, is still an upgrade because it has armor on it, which means that you can then use the new armor mastery where you get +1 to all maximum resistances if everything is armor, which is useful. And it also, of course, has 10% more of physical taken to something else, and we basically are never worried about resistances on this build because we get a ton from Chieftain, and I use all 3 purities, so just shuffle it around and you can use Lightning Coil. For League Start, I'm just showing Scholar's Robe because it's a bit easier to color, and it's a lot more competitive because you get the mastery with the life, and then the other fire mastery that's good is you regenerate 1 life per second for each 1% uncapped fire resistance, which gives us quite a lot, 315 life regen, but 63 of that is from Scholar's Robe dumping more fire resistance on us, so that's a little bit useful as well. A couple other things that are not equipped I wanted to go over. These are just 2 really good leveling, or if they've been successfully Vaal corrupted, like Temple double corrupted, even better than a 6-link items to put your gems into, because both Reap and Wave of Conviction scale extremely well with gem levels. So, in fact, when I am playing in a longer term league, usually what I'm using, I mean, not usually, I do a few different things, but one of the things that I'll use is if you hit a double corrupt on Honor Home, where both of the corruptions are some form of plus levels to something that's relevant. So, like if you get like AoE and duration, or AoE plus 1 level, you have that in an Honor Home with an Empower, and that's better than a 6-link for Wave. It's definitely better for Reap because Reap scales even harder. But even if it's just the +2 and you have Empower, that's competitive with it. And for leveling, it's just great. I mean, just the +2 level, this is basically a pseudo 5-link, which, you know, it's not like amazing that you have a pseudo 5-link, but if you just pick it up in like Act 2, you can, you know, use it for the whole campaign and some of the end game until you get a better 6-link, and it gives you a bit more flexibility just in figuring out links on the body armor for a while. Vaal Caress is just clearly really, really good for Vaal Reap, because you get that +5 level on Vaal Reap even when you're just using the Reap, and this is better than a 6-link all of the time. And it's not hard to get. It's one of the more common uniques in the game. Because you get the +5 level and you get Onslaught for 20 seconds on using a Vaal skill. And Vaal Reap only takes 25 souls, so it's not like, you know, it's going to be a difficult thing to do. It has another functionality if you want to play Wave, which is that if you get this gloves and you just throw in your purities, lightning, fire, and cold, and you Vaal them, and you just put them in here, you can hit the breakpoint for the additional % of maximum resistance really, really easily. So I've done that a couple times lately since these gloves have changed. So Vaal Caress is extremely good, whether you're doing Wave or you're doing Vaal Reap. But really, really good for Vaal Reap, like already better than a 6-link with no change. And then if you get a corruption on it, obviously it's much better. So basically what I would recommend is by default just do Wave of Conviction. It's easier, it has a nicer playstyle. But as you get into the end game, probably Vaal Reap is going to pass it. Definitely if you get like a corruption on the Vaal Caress, that's useful. The damage is going to start to be significantly more. Reap scales better than Wave does with more investment, especially if you manage to get the Awakened Cascade, which obviously, you know, that's a rare drop out of a large pool. So don't assume that, and this is like a uber league starter thing. This gear is extremely basic. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to go over. Not sure. Another thing you can do if you're leveling and you haven't gotten either of these body armors and you're starting to feel squishy against physical stuff, you can path over to Energy Shield Armor and take a bit more taken as Chaos, which, I mean, you could do that now too if you had a few more skill points. So we do have another option, because that's our primary defense against physical, is just making it something else. As always, these numbers are with the guard skill off. If I turn that on, it obviously gets a bit better. We use Immortal Call, the same as we always have with Chieftain, just because we use it in conjunction with the Valico node. So we will click both Immortal Call and Infernal Cry at the same time. Infernal Cry will give the Covered in Ash debuff, and then Immortal Call is our guard skill, which shouts away the endurance charges, which means we've lost a charge recently, and then it'll just go back up. So very simple stuff. Another thing to look out for, which I will actually add to the thing right now, is Light Poacher. So this is quite interesting. It says plus 5% of physical damage as extra damage of each element per spirit charge. This is something they've changed for this league. And I think I probably will switch to Abyss on my Atlas tree, because some of these things seem really, really good. If you manage to get, obviously this is not a common drop, but if you do also get Shroud of the Lightless here, that also gives you 3% increased max life per ritual and penetrates 4% elemental resistances, which makes like just a basic Abyssal just with like life and maybe one good modifier like a really, really good node. Like if you get these two things and you put them all in just like every jewel slot you can, like you would even path over here, take that, it becomes very, very strong. And the way that you make use of this, because you're wondering like, well, what does it matter? Because Light Poacher makes you get rid of whatever charges you have anyway, is what you'll do is in the Light Poacher Great Crown, you're going to make it so that you can't trigger the level 20 Spirit Burst, and you do that by giving it a mana cost. So the mana cost, I think the only way to do it, the way that I did it when I was testing, is you put Archmage as a support gem for it, and that will support the skill. And then you make sure that you never have any mana. You put everything else on life tap, which almost everything already is on life tap, and then you take the Agnostic, and that means that all of your mana is constantly draining away to life, and we're doing that anyway because we have Righteous Fire, so we are taking damage. You don't need to worry about that. So you won't have any mana. So Light Poacher will go to proc its Spirit Burst, and it won't be able to. So instead, you'll keep all your Spirit Charges. And I did test this on the current version. So you're just going to have this 5% physical damage as extra damage of each element per Spirit Charge all of the time. And you're going to have this all the time if you have the... oh, that just is affected by Abyssal. Sorry, that's not relevant. But anyway, the Light Poacher, that's how it works. So then Abyssal Sockets become like one of the biggest damage things that you can do. So you'll definitely do like Darkness Enthroned, and you'll just be trying to fit in as many as you possibly can. So this is an alternate way to build it. I did make a tree for this, but it's not as polished as this. Sorry, I don't think I'm going to upload it. I'm not doing like a full in-depth build guide today, but just, you can take my word for it. If you get these things and you start socketing these Abyssals, it becomes very good very quickly. Obviously, the other thing, along with, if you get Omniscience, is always just the Annihilating Light is a big DPS boost all the time for Wave, always. It's just a good thing, and we don't have much trouble meeting the resistance costs. I mean, we're going to have to take a couple more nodes, but with the purities, it's not too difficult, and if you get that, then that's a healthy damage boost. If you want to go tanky, you can always do a Saffel Frame or Dawnbreaker. Dawnbreaker's the name of the shield, right? I'm not crazy. Yeah, Dawnbreaker, which drops from the Exarch. Yeah, I think that's it. There's nothing too complicated about this. The reason I play Wave is that it's an S+ playstyle. You just click, you clear out all the screen, doesn't matter how many monsters in the way, pierces everything. Very easy to gear because you can get the plus level to Fire, Lightning, Fizz, obviously all AoE duration. Very easy. Don't think that there's too much else to talk about other than, yeah, I hope you have a great league start. Sorry I haven't been around in a while. If you've left me comments, I haven't seen them, I haven't read them, I apologize. Maybe I will get to that, but absolutely no promises because I'm crazy busy lately. But anyway, do love you guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope you have a good league start, and I will maybe talk to you later in the league. Good luck.